we got some folks here that are, I guess, counter-protestors, would you say?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
we've been talking with the guys on the other side here who are out rallying against the Children's Hospital for the transition surgeries on children. I think some of them are a little upset with drag shows, things like that. So you two have come out here to speak against that. First of all, what's your name?
Oh, my name's Jen.
Jen, nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to
Dustin.
meet
Jen and
Cecilia.
Jen and Cecilia, nice to meet you. This is Jorge, my partner in crime here. So what in the world has brought you out in billion-degree heat?
Well, I think that as a mom of a trans kid, it is important to fight against this kind of hate. These people have no reason to be upset with Children's Hospital or anybody else for providing gender-affirming care because it's none of their business. I don't care what their reasoning is for it. They need to leave the trans kids alone.
Can you describe for folks that might not know what is gender-affirming care?
So gender-affirming care is healthcare where the person is treated as they are identified. So for example, my son Ezra gets gender-affirming care, and they don't, even though he was assigned female at birth, they do not refer to him as female. They make sure that his identity is protected in terms of and supported.
So I have another question. They might seem silly to folks that don't know. I know what you mean, I think, by sex. He was assigned female at birth.
Right.
What does that mean?
So my son was born with a vagina. He was born with a uterus. However, he does not identify as female. He identifies as a male, and therefore he is a male, and he needs to be supported by that. And these people have no reason to question my son, his gender, or anything.
So, do you have a line that you draw with, because they would probably say, well, I get it, he identifies as male. Mm-hmm. Are there something, like, what's your level of understanding and acceptance for folks that identify as something that society at large might not think is the case? Do you get what I'm asking?
I don't think I exactly get what you're saying.
So, like, they would say, well, okay, if a child identifies as, an adult or something, like, I'm not going to let them drive. Do you have a line that you draw?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I don't think that that's a good argument. We're not talking about driving. We're not talking about identifying as anything other than gender, which is a social construct, but it is a way that we identify people in the world, and it's not the same thing as saying, oh, I identify as a unicorn. It's not. It's as they are saying, sex and gender are basic and prescribed by God. I'm saying that sex and gender are not prescribed by God. They are prescribed by a person's identity.
Okay, this is the largest group we've had so far talking about this, so I have Jorge raising a finger, but you kind of piped up and you said it's not the same. Did you have it before did you have anything?
Well, I just don't think the analogy about learning to drive a car and becoming your true self with gender-affirming services is the same. Okay. It's not. Yeah, it's just not a good analogy.
Yes, sir?
Well, follow-up question to that. I've actually seen people, they started kind of a movement, right? Obviously they've seen LGBTQ, right? And, the rallies they perform and whatnot. But it's people actually, and these are real people, as he was saying. I don't know if you meant it as an analogy, you can correct me. But
yeah, it's just one I came up with on the fly.
Okay, so, like, for example, there are, and like I said, I want to hear your response on this. I don't know if you heard of TED Talks. Have you heard? Okay, so I remember I saw a TED Talk of this psychologist who studied things regarding, who studied people who are, what's the other child molester? Pedophile. And they're starting to say that pedophile is one of those, it's part of the gender spectrum. I saw that TED Talk and saying how it's something that we have to accept these people. They are children trapped in big grown men's
I
body.
don't understand how pedophilia and transgender are even in the same conversation. That's part of the problem, is that too many people don't understand what that means. Why is that even part of this conversation?
I hate TED Talks a lot.
Yeah,
Yep,
why
yep.
is pedophilia even being brought up? That has nothing to do with this.
Do you agree?
Right, so yeah, pedophilia has nothing to do with it. I understand what you're saying about TED Talks where people say, oh, well, a pedophile is just an adult who identifies as a child, so they should be allowed to have their sexual orientation. That's not the same thing. One is a psychopathy, right? We can say that people who want to have sex and molest children have a problem, and people who are transgender are not. It's not the same thing.
I guess I see one difference being with pedophilia, there's two people involved. With transgender, I guess arguably there's just the individual.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just one person embracing their true identity, and it doesn't hurt anyone or help anyone else to do that. Whereas if you're a pedophile and you have the right to be a pedophile, then you are hurting a child.
Sounds like.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to finish off the question. I wasn't done with the question.
okay.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna stop. So and other people, I don't know. I've seen all sorts of things. Identify as animals and all these things, right? So to those people, in their minds, they truly feel that they should be protected, as well as LGBT. What do you tell the people that come out with those type of thoughts and ideologies, wanting to be part of a protected group?
Can I? Never mind.
Okay,
Sorry.
I hear what you're saying.
Can I first ask? Do you? Is that a good question? Like, do you feel the pull of that at least?
I do. I understand what you're saying. So, listen, if you want to identify as a cat and have sex with people who also identify with cats and there's consent, then great, go ahead. I don't know that you need to be a protected class. There are all kinds of people with all kinds of different kinks who don't need to be protected. What goes on in your bedroom or your litter box or whatever is of no importance to me. But
I don't even know how to continue this interview.
But people who want to marry the Eiffel Tower or have sex with a fence, that doesn't hurt a living being. People who want to have sex with cats and dogs or children, that's a completely different thing. And no, I don't think that I want to include them in the LGBTQ umbrella at all. No.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
No.
So it just can't. So as you were talking, I mean, it seemed almost like in a way though. And I know this is the thought experiment, right? This is why we're getting philosophical with this. But there are folks that, I'm a wolf, I'm a whatever. And in a way, like, I guess they seem really like, I don't want to throw out the I word,
Right.
but intersectionality, the levels of sort of, levels of status in society.
Sure.
Sort of intersectionality. To me, someone who identifies as a wolf, I mean, even you, like, we were sort of making fun of, the litter box thing. Like, in a way, they're almost, following that train of thought. It's like, in a way, they should be even more protected because there's such a minority. And let's be honest, most people are kind of like, all right, I get it.
Honestly, I support their right to have their kink 100%.
But you don't want to make the right legal, like legally protected.
I don't know. Do I have the right legally to not have sex with my husband if I don't feel like it? I mean, do I need to be protected from that? I mean, I suppose if I were being coerced or I was being forced to have sex. I don't know. That's an interesting question. But, obviously, I want to say no kink shaming. I think that it's fine as long as there is consent, and that's the key.
Okay. This is so much fun. I've been studying this like a lot. So like seeing someone in person, talking about this stuff is really exciting. I have about 1,000 questions. So
Keep going.
golly. So before I forget, when we were walking over there, we asked someone said hi. I said, hey, we're going over to talk to someone on the other side there. If you could ask them, one thing, what would you ask them? And so I'm gonna ask that question.
Sure.
They said I would ask, would you have supported Hitler?
Absolutely not.
Again for the camera, just so we're all clear.
Absolutely not. I'm a Jew, by the way. What does Hitler have to do with this? They're the ones who are fascists, not me. I'm so sorry.
I'll be honest, there was a part of me that laughed a little bit too when she said that. And then she explained a little bit, and then I thought, okay, I have another question that kind of goes with that. It isn't as silly when you got to kind of what she was, I think, getting at, which was, well, Hitler took people's body parts and, did things with them that they weren't born as. He was, mutilating, experimenting, whatever. And so they're kind of like concerned that that's what this is too. And so I guess a real life, because Hitler is always used,
Right.
and so to me a real life would be like, so like intersex,
Right.
when folks are born with maybe ambiguous genitalia or whatever, doctors, will go in and basically make a decision about the genitalia and, well, we'll get rid of this or whatever. So I think really what she was trying to get at was kind of like, well, basically this side over here is supporting, medically adjusting genitalia. Hitler did that. Doctors do that with intersex. Can we just leave the genitalia alone? I think her heart was coming from, like, why mess with it? Just, gosh.
The entire question comes down to consent. Again, Hitler did not have consent to do that to all those children. The people who, at Children's, for example, who provide gender-affirming care, who, by the way, do not do top or bottom surgery, because in Nebraska you need to be 16 to have top surgery and 18 to have bottom surgery, so they're all wrong anyway. Pardon.
One person we talked to, I think, agreed. She said something about top. I think she said maybe top was done, but bottom, they go down to UNMC.
They go down to UNMC for top surgery as well. So, thank you.
I believe you.
Yeah.
You're very convincing. I don't know. She seemed really smart too, but I don't know.
So it's down to consent. Again, Hitler did not have consent to do that. The doctors at Children who provide gender-affirming care for the children, including mine, have consent. They have my consent and they have my son's consent.
So, but it's the same thing with intersex. When they're born, they have the parents' consent, and the children. Can children consent?
No, children can't consent. However, in the case of intersex children, what I think will be happening in the future is that we will leave them alone, and we will let children who are intersex be intersex, because there's nothing wrong with being intersex. And then later on, if they show signs of gender dysphoria, or they identify as one or the other, then great, they can have affirming services.
So if children can't consent, the parent can. So to me, I'm still not seeing the difference. So you got the intersex, where the kid's too young to consent. The kid literally can't say anything.
Right.
You have the parental consent. In your case with your son, you consented, and in his way, I'm sure he was speaking up and saying, yes, please.
Yes, absolutely.
But in a way, that consent, since he's a kid, doesn't count. So really, it's still a parental consent. And so it seems in the intersex case, it might be best just to leave things as they are, but I'm still trying to understand why in your case it's
Sure.
okay.
So no, I understand what you're saying. I think that intersex kids should be left alone until they show signs of dysphoria. If they do, and if so, then they can have affirming care to affirm their gender. However, I don't believe that there's anything wrong with keeping a child who is intersex, unless, listen, my son was born with a vagina. If he'd been happy with that, then that would be great, but he wasn't, and he identifies as male, and so that's why he has that care. Do you know what I'm saying? So like
Yeah,
right,
I know what you're
so-
saying. Because you're saying, well, to me, I still can see, well, in both cases, say the parent says, yes, please go ahead, assign a gender at birth to this intersex child, they'll be happier. I know that as a parent. So to me, it still seems like parents making choices that they think would be happy for their children that affects just the way they were born.
Right.
It seems like you want to respect the way they were born in one case, but not the other, and I'm still not 100%
Okay,
sure
all right,
why.
no, I see what you're saying, and it is really tricky.
I told you I'd be giving you a head scratcher.
No, you're absolutely right. It comes down to dysphoria, I guess, in terms of sex and gender. I don't think that it is okay, even as a Jew, for a parent to circumcise their child, for example. I think that if a child is born with a penis, and that is the way the penis is, then you leave that penis alone, because they can't consent to what is happening with their penis. However, if they are born with a penis, but feel dysphoria, and feel like their penis is not who they are, then that's different, and then that means that they should have gender affirming care. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I agree with you, but I think we tacked it down to the thing is the dysphoria.
Yes, dysphoria is.
Okay, I think that's I'm happy with that for now. I'm hogging things. What do you got? Anything that's come to your mind, Mr. Sir?
Go ahead. Keep going.
So I mean, totally changing topic. I gave you my card about the Bible thing, which was we haven't been talking much about that. We were gonna talk a lot more about it, but so do you know anything about the Bible? You said you're a Jew.
I'm Jewish. I've read the Torah. I've been to Hebrew school. I've had a bat mitzvah. I don't know what else you need.
Anything like New Testament wise? Are you kind of mostly in the Jewish?
I know about the New Testament. I know who Jesus was. That sort of thing. I would say that probably. I don't want to brag, but I probably know.
Brag away.
I probably know more about the New Testament than these people do about the Old Testament.
Okay. Yeah, this one lady I talked with, she said she had read the Constitution more times than the Bible. She said she had read the Bible, but it was more times with the Constitution.
So then,
I kind of laughed too. But to be fair, the Constitution you can knock out in a morning, easy. The Bible's going to take you quite a long time. So, I mean, to be fair, do you have an opinion on whether the Bible can be reconciled with, LGBT? I know LGBT plus is quite a thing.
Right.
A lot goes into it, but in general, the main claims that LGBT makes, can you have those claims in your head? And also have the claims that the Bible make in your head at the same time?
Yeah, I can. And
please tell me more.
okay, so in the Torah, in the Talmud, there are 8 genders. There are male, female, and then male and female by alteration, male and female by not alteration, and then in between. So that's 8, and I think that's pretty cool.
And what about the Bible though? Because the Talmud comes, hundreds of years later. I don't know much about it, so let's not talk about it.
Okay.
But yeah, just as far as biblical claims, can you fit that in your head at the same time as LGBT stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go simple. God made man, woman, in His image. God made my kid trans. My kid is made in God's image. The end. Done. Mic drop.
Okay. So what about passages that are, say things like, well, men shouldn't have sex with men and women shouldn't have... What do you do with those?
Well, it really is. Go save children. It really is down to interpretation. Then it's down to translation. When King James translated the Bible, when he did it from Latin to English, he left out a bunch of stuff, did a bunch of stuff his way. We can't know exactly what it says, and these people are putting a lot of faith in it saying one thing when we don't really know what it says. Does that make sense?
It does, and I know Jorge wants to say a ton because he's a biblical scholar, but I guess, so are you saying that, sounds like you're saying that the Bible as it stands today is it sits a little uncomfortably with LGBT ideology, I suppose you could say. It sits a little comfortably. Would you go so far as to say the Bible as I got one in my pocket. If I handed this to you, it's not a King James, a new King James. If I handed this to you, would you go so far as to say this Bible does contradict the LGBT plus movement?
Oh, 100%. That's why
Okay.
people are here, because they think that the Bible has told them something, and they have to make sure that everybody knows.
Okay. And so not just how they interpret it, but like the folks who originally wrote the Bible intended. Well, okay, now we're getting into the
Right.
the original stuff, but whoever wrote what they wrote in the Bible, they intended it to be against what is now being understood in the LGBT movement. Is that, I'm hearing you right?
I think so, probably. I don't know. I don't know the guy. I can imagine that whoever wrote it probably put a lot of their own spin on it, and that's why things in it don't make sense.
Jen, you're a hoot. So it's funny. So these guys, when we talked with them, pretty much every time, we said, so we're going to the Pride Parade tomorrow to talk to folks, and we said, hey, we're going downtown tomorrow to talk to people. If you could tell them one thing, ask them one thing, what would it be? And every time except one, they just, said, well, I'd tell them, that Jesus loves them, Jesus died for them, he paid for their sins, like just believe in Jesus, give your life to him. That's what they say. They didn't, that was pretty much the whole thing. You have a comment.
Right, I think that these people's agenda, while they may think that gender affirming care is not great, their real agenda is to proselytize and get people to be on their side, because they are, and I don't know, but from what I understand of evangelical Christendom, is that the whole goal is that you need to proselytize people, get them on your side, because then you have a better chance of getting into heaven. I don't know if that's too basic, but...
Yeah. I was almost with you up there, then got a little...
So I have a sister-in-law who used to be an evangelical Christian, and she told me that her mission was to convert people so that they may be saved, I guess. And
that part seems right.
Right, and so what difference does it make to them if I'm saved or not? She actually deprogrammed herself because 2 of her kids are LGBTQ, so love you. So here's the thing. I believe that these people are here not because they care about gender affirming care, but because they want people to love Jesus and know that Jesus loves them.
Yeah, I think that is their ultimate hope. What was I going to ask you? So you were saying, the Bible, you understand some funky things have happened over the course of time. So their claim about, Jesus living, dying on the cross, he wants to be your man, forgive your sins. That's a pretty skeletal outline. It's not like, oh, this word was written by the Apostle Paul, and we know that. It's pretty much just a real broad, scattershot of the stuff that happened and why. Do you think that has come through history, or is that like a man-made invention, that brief little tale?
I think it's been through history. People have weaponized the Bible to further their own aims. Look at the Catholic Church in in the Renaissance or whatever, the Medici family, all those people, all those corrupt popes, all of that. People use it in order to fuel their own agenda.
Yeah, I agree with that. But so the story about Jesus, do you think that's coming from a general, do you think that's coming from something that happened? Maybe, okay, that passage wasn't there.
If Jesus died on the cross?
Right, do you think, because you're saying with the Bible, a lot of stuff's gotten a little fudged here and there, but the general skeletal outline of that stuff happened for the forgiveness of sins, or at least that was, did that happen?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but let me ask you this, and I'm not a biblical scholar.
He is.
Right? So if Jesus died on the cross for my sins and your sins and Jorge's sins, who crucified Jesus? Was it God? No, it was the Romans, if I understand correctly, though some people blame the Jews. God didn't do it, right? And did God not invent the Romans? It's a whole thing.
So it doesn't make sense to you philosophically in your head.
No.
But, okay.
But
so maybe it happened.
Sure. Listen, let me go so far as to say I believe that Jesus existed. I believe he was a dude. I believe that he had a bunch of followers. I believe that the Last Supper was Passover. I believe that he was crucified. I don't know if he was crucified to make us all pure or what, but sure, I will give you that the man existed.
Okay. So, do you think, like, if... It sounds like you think, yeah, the stuff probably happened. It's the claims, like... Because how do you, you know, it's the claims that, well, it probably happened, but did he really die for my sins? Is where you're like, I don't know.
Who's gonna know that?
If you believe that, if you came to a place like these folks where you think, okay, I mean, it seemed like it happened historically, and that he, you know, they're all saying like he died for my sins. I definitely have some of those. I think I should put that guy in charge of my life because I think he's alive. If you got to that place,
Yeah.
how would that affect your, you know, your understanding of life? I'll put it that way.
Ugh, I don't know.
Would that change things?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, I guess you're saying that if I were to suddenly like believe in the stuff the way that these people do, then sure, I'm sure that I would. I'm sure I'd be a horrible person. Just kidding. I don't think that all of these people are horrible, but I think what they're doing here today is horrible. I don't believe that anybody is really in charge of my life except for myself. I make my own choices. God created me to make my own choices.
I have a finger held up
Sure,
over here.
sure.
Thanks for being so gracious. I love doing this kind of stuff. So kind of a follow-up or a deeper question, like as he was asking. Let's just say, and this is, you know, let's just say whatever it took. Let's just say that the Bible, and, you know, let's look back at the Hebrew, and then for the New Testament, let's look back at the Greek. Let's just say whatever it took, to you, whatever you required as proof, it is there for you. It is confirmed. You know it's true. Let's just say, let's just paint that scenario for a second. But at the same time, you realize, wow, Jesus is the Son of God. He is. This is the true road, whatever it took. But at the same time, with this being true, there are now beliefs or things that he talked about that are contradictory to your current beliefs. So let's say, okay, it's true, but wow, he was right. Homosexuality is a sin. This is a behavior that condemns us, just as lying, stealing, fornicating, adultery. If that was revealed to you, where you knew 100% was true, even if it went against your current beliefs, how would you react to it? Would you live your life for this God that you know is true, or would you stick to what you want to do and what you feel is right to do according to your own standards?
Okay, so first of all, it would never happen because I don't believe that Jesus is my savior. Okay, so let's just get that straight, right? Because
No.
right. As a Jew, okay, this does apply to Judaism, though, right? I mean, do I pick and choose what I want to follow out of Judaism? Do I believe that fundamental Orthodox Judaism is misogynist, anti-LGBTQIA+?
Yeah, if you're still following the Mosaic law, homosexuality is, you know, called an abomination, and you're, you know,
Absolutely. So-
that is a no-no under Mosaic law.
Right, so listen, I don't think that Orthodox Jews are right. They look really cool. Okay, I want to say that. Like, the outfits 100%, but you know, it's not feasible in my life to follow 623 mitzvot. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. So no, I don't think it would change, because just as being a Jew, you know, I don't do all of the, I don't follow Mosaic law. So yeah, yeah.
2 more minutes we got.
2 more minutes? Sure. Okay, so then from what I'm understanding, even if you knew that Jesus was the Son of God, even if you did, right, all it took, you would reject that and keep with your current beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and if that makes me a horrible person, then I guess I am. But you know, I mean, listen, I'm trying to find a good analogy that you can end on. But like, you know, I'm very much like, let's cancel the person if they're a bad person, right? So let's take J.K. Rowling, for example. I was a huge Harry Potter fan, loved Harry Potter, have a Harry Potter tattoo. Once
I don't even have any words for that. That's sorry. I have tattoos I regret too, so I feel you.
Once she came out as a transphobe, she was canceled. I'm getting my tattoo covered. I'm done with her, so I reject J.K. Rowling. So yeah, no, I would reject it.
Just Jen, thank you so much.
I feel like I'm gonna pass
Thank you
out.
very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Hello! We are here with two folks we have met on the side of the road. Who do we got here?
Sen.
Sen?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Sen.
And Ronnie.
Sen and Ronnie. And this is Jorge. I'm Dustin. Nice to meet you. So, what's going on?
A anti-trans protest.
Anti-trans. So you are anti-trans.
No, the big event going on right now is the anti-trans protest, but we're here against that, so we are pro-trans.
Okay. Same here?
Same here.
Cool. So what do you imagine they are out here on the other side to accomplish today?
They want to stop allowing children to have the access for hormones and transgender surgeries, like, top surgery, bottom surgery, and all that stuff, I'm assuming. And they're trying to convince people who are for it to, go against that.
To go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they're just out here trying to get more support for. It looks like they're pretty anti-trans healthcare, especially for children. So we just saw the protest and wanted to come speak our piece.
Do you think there's a difference between children and adults when it comes to trans surgeries? Like, should I don't know if you say rules or laws, like, be different for the two? Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Okay.
And I do believe that trans kids should have rights to hormones, but as of now, I don't think surgeries are legal anyway because they have to be 18 so their bodies are done growing, because those parts don't grow with them. So I think that's what everything is like right now, just according to the law.
Do you think that should be lowered, like a 15-year-old uncomfortable with the parts they got, like super uncomfortable? Do you think that it should be lowered to allow that, change to happen there?
If it makes them comfortable, yes, but they just need to know what the side effects would be, I guess, because those parts will not grow with them properly.
Okay, so you're not happy with the law as it stands now?
No.
How about you?
I agree. As long as they are informed properly of the side effects it would have, how it'll affect them. But if they truly are uncomfortable in their body right now, I think they should have the right to look into that if it makes sense with their health and their doctor approves of it.
Do you have an age where you'd say, yeah, below that age, why don't we wait?
I would say 10 and under, we should wait, because that's real young.
Yeah, some people I guess would say 15 is really young.
Well, yeah, true, but I would say, like, if you want to remove the breast tissue, then that's fine, but don't go any more than that for that young.
So 10 is okay in your eyes?
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. This is my hobby. So does that bother you at all? Like, because removing the breast tissue you mentioned, like, that removes their option when they get older to breastfeed. Does that, like, weird you out at all? Like a 10-year-old deciding at 10 to, like, remove the option to, like, have that with their children?
Not
in
at
the
all.
future?
I've been saying that I didn't want children since I was 3, and I still don't want children, so I do believe that in some cases those decisions could be made at that age.
Okay, and how about you? Been leaving you out?
I agree. I've also always never wanted children, and I think people at that age, they're starting to develop the ideas of what they want for the rest of their life. People develop them at different times, so it's kind of different for everybody, but like, I think people have the right to make that decision. I don't think there's many women, like cis women, who would mistake that, like, not wanting to have breasts. Like, I've never heard that before in my life. I've never met somebody who wanted to get their breasts removed and then regretted that decision.
I have so many questions.
I know it exists.
So, what was my question? Well, okay, I'll ask. Oh, I was gonna ask, so, like, how many folks under, let's say, 22 say that they want to have kids when they grow up?
I've met, like, most of the people I've met want to have kids.
Yeah? Under 22?
I mean, like, not at this exact moment, but yes. Obviously there's, like, a mix of it, but most people that, like, want to have kids have said that for a long time. Like, I grew up with kids. I think most people probably grew up with kids like that only wanted to be like a mother or only wanted to be a father growing up. And I think that's something that you want pretty young, although that can obviously change through life.
Yeah. How about you?
I do believe I have met there are like plenty of young girls who do play with baby dolls because they want to have kids growing up, and then obviously, as they were saying, that it is a thought for the future that they're having these feelings and whatnot. So
I didn't want to have kids like at all,
Really?
and that would be. I'm just trying to like put myself in other folks' shoes.
Yeah.
I'd be so devastated if I decided at that age that oh yeah, I don't want to have kids in the future, and it's like, oh my gosh, that's so important. So that's just my thought there. So you mentioned regrets, and you mentioned that it does exist. Like, what do you think about? Because like I was surprised. Like I've done a lot of looking into this for this little event here. I was surprised seems to be a lot of folks that do regret transitioning. I guess just what do you think of that in general? And that was actually a question someone wanted me to ask from online, so
Yeah.
I'm doing you a service.
Personally, I have never met a trans person or a cis person that tried to transition and regretted it, so I can't speak for them. It does exist. I think, growing up, like, people can make mistakes. People can, like, confuse parts of their identity, but it's such a small portion of it. And most of those people don't, like, ever get to the point of being, like 18 when they can get, like, the full, like, gender confirmation surgeries that they want. Most of it is usually hormones that can start at a younger age. So I don't want to speak over those people because I don't have any experience with that. But it does exist. I just don't think it's as big of a...
Holy smokes! That scared the living daylights out of me.
Let me regather my thoughts.
Okay, that's my question.
I'm fine.
Jorge,
Almost there.
how about you? The D-trans community, what do you think? What were they getting wrong? Like when they thought transitioning was the right thing, did they make the wrong decision? Like, how do you go back and advise them differently?
I have no idea how anybody. I don't know what especially would make them start thinking that again, or what would cause them to decide that they were wrong. Or my best guess would be an unhealthy household, because they would be confused about a lot of things if they're not being taken care of properly.
Okay. Last question, because I know my cameraman's getting tired. So, what do you think of this? The transition, when folks transition, because this is what made me think of it. You were saying like, well, you get the hormones and stuff like that, and then you feel like that's the right move. I think there's studies where it's like people that go through transition, like the guy who invented this procedure or process, in his like study, 100% of the people didn't regret transitioning. They felt like, yeah, this was the right move. Now, did they feel a whole lot better? Not necessarily, but they thought, yeah, this is fine. This is like who I am or whatever. But then in the general population, most people, when they feel like I'm the wrong gender, they actually come out of it, and they get over it, and they feel like the gender that they represent biologically. Why do you think that is?
Do you have the study? Do you have any like links to this study?
Yes, right here. No. It's the guy who invented the procedure. He was like Swedish or Dutch. I could find out somehow and send it to you. But yeah, that.
Never heard of
Just
it.
believe me, I'm trustworthy.
Okay. I have never heard of this before, so I can't speak on that. I don't 100% think that's true. Just because, again, like I've said, I've never met a trans person or somebody who ever thought they were trans that went back on that. I think
No, that's what this is saying. Is none of them did. So so he gave these guys hormones and stuff, and I'm guessing there was, the surgeries and stuff, and none of the people he worked on later on in life thought, well, yeah, that was wrong. I should go back to my other gender. Okay. So none of them thought that. So they all stuck with it. But then yet in the general population, if we look at people who have transgender thoughts and then like don't do anything with them, no hormones, no surgery and stuff, the vast majority of those then go back to identifying with their biological sex. So I'm like,
I think that has to do with the societal point of perhaps they didn't have access to those things and are trying to find happiness in other ways because they didn't have access to the care they needed. So I think that they most likely, if these people did not go through the affirmations that they needed, the gender affirmation, surgeries, hormones, whatever it may be, if they didn't have access to that, it is most likely, in my opinion, that they just tried to go, like, to please those around them.
They were pretending is what you're...
No,
you're trying to be nice about it, but
No,
they're
I'm
just...
saying
They're...
I'm saying that they... First of all, I don't even know... I've never read this study before.
It boggled my mind.
But I don't really believe that there's many trans people that would go back on that. So I believe that these people most likely are still trans. They just did not have access to the surgeries and the they needed and the environment that made them feel comfortable enough to...
So are you saying they are feeling internally back like I do now, I feel and identify with my biological sex? Are you saying they're wrong about that? They're just, now they feel like that, but they truly are trans?
I'm saying that, for example, if there was a male to female transgender person and they did not have access to what they needed and they didn't have an approving family or just like support system in general,
and then they went back to feeling male.
Back to feeling, I don't agree. I don't necessarily think they went back to feeling male. I think they probably, most likely, if these studies are true, went back to attempt to get in. I don't know how to phrase it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't know if you understand.
It sounds a little mean, like you're not believing these guys, but...
No. I mean, I've never seen these people, I've never seen these studies, so I can't say.
Yeah, and I know I'm throwing you on the spot, so I understand you're not going to have a dissertation on the question. I have left you out.
No.
No.
I believe that is one of those things where, if you can't do anything about it, then just don't worry about it. Like that kind of mindset, and they're trying to get themselves out of it so they can feel better. And I get that, but I do think that they might be wrong about it. I feel like that maybe...
You're a little more willing to say it.
Yeah, but I feel like
You're phrasing it better than I am.
I feel like if they do ever give it a try and get access to that stuff and then they do start hormones, even if it's just for a little bit, even just the idea of starting it and being on them, even though it won't be long enough for any of the super permanent changes to take place, they'll be like, yeah, this is perfect.
Yeah. The claim is, man, I could talk to you guys for forever. But I'll just tell you, I think that the worry is that doing the hormones and the social transition and the surgical change sort of cements that identity. Do you also have that worry?
You could also just do the social part first and see how that feels, and then because none of that is permanent. You can always just say, I was wrong about this. I'm sorry. I would like to go back to being wherever I was before.
Right, but the worry is you start doing that, and then it's like a feedback cycle where whereas like most people would just go back to feeling the biological sex, and then the folks that you start this transition process with, they seem to like never go back that way. So it's kind of like, wait, are we doing this to them, or is this really how they would feel had we sort of not done anything? You see where that's like a conundrum.
And that is why that they do have you, before you do start hormones, they do sit you down and go through everything that it'll do to you and ask you if you are absolutely positive you want to do it. So I mean.
Yeah. Man, I really wish we could talk forever. I know we gotta go. Jorge has a finger up. And
a couple questions? Only 2 minutes, really. As long as so, last one, which is the question of the day. What do you think? Can the Bible? Well, we asked him. Can the Bible and what it teaches be reconciled with LGBT ideology? In other words, do they contradict each other, or can you believe both and not contradict each other?
What a wonderful question. Who came up with that?
So I personally do not practice Christianity. I was in it for a long time, and I do think that they can coexist. If you are in like a healthy church or a healthy religious community that's accepting, I think it absolutely can happen. I think it's become a little bit harder just because some people are so outspokenly like homophobic and transphobic in the church. Not everybody, not saying that at all. It's just hard for a lot of, especially like younger LGBT kids. But I think it definitely can happen. I don't think there's anything specifically in the Bible that I have ever read that says that trans people cannot exist in Christianity. That's just not.
Did you get one of those cards?
Your card?
Yes. So, spoiler alert, that website does not answer the question. But it does give you all of the verses that are relevant.
Okay.
So, check it out if you're interested.
Okay.
And I don't know if you need to. Do you want to say something, or can I ask the final question?
You can ask the final question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're pretty much in agreement with her.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
so yes.
Okay, final question. Let's just say, whatever it took, right? Let's just say that the Bible itself, Jesus came, died for the sins of the world, right? It's 100% true. Whatever proof you needed, anything you require of it, it's there in front of you. You know for a fact it's true. But at the same time, this God, who now showed you the proof that you required, also is saying that LGBT homosexuality is actually a sin in his book. It's confirmed. So you have those two conundrums. You now know it's true, whatever it takes, but it's going against your current beliefs. Do you believe in this now God that you know exists, or do you live your life according to your own standards, even if whatever the repercussions are?
I guess.
That's my final question.
I guess you'll be catching me in hell. That's my.
Will you also be there?
Just because somebody of power exists doesn't mean I have to follow them.
Okay. I don't know why that surprises me when people say that.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm a Christian. Pre-Christian me would have been like, well, gosh, I don't believe that stuff, but yeah, if it's true, I suppose that would have some implications. So that surprises me. I don't know if you have anything else, but.
Oh, I just like living my life. Like I've tried to change like who I am, and that doesn't work.
Not-
Never worked.
not so
I've
good.
tried to talk to God or anybody else about it. So I would rather live my life and be happy, and I guess end up in hell. I guess we'd have a lot of cool people there. I guess if that's the truth.
Okay. Well, anything else?
No. I just appreciate your honesty and directness.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys being gracious and honest and hanging out with us in the heat. Sen, yes, right? Sen and
Ronnie.
Ronnie. Wow. Nope, that wasn't at all
That's
in here.
okay.
Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you for letting
so
me
much.
stumble through the questions.
Yes.